love this music. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure for being here today. I'm Leendert. I got a Dutch name. I was born in France, and the company was established in Belgium. So we are truly European. Glad to be here in London today. We're specialized in social media analytics, in real-time social media analytics, and I'll talk about that in a minute. And this is actually our daily lives. We're dealing with thousands and thousands and thousands of messages. This is a Twitter stream, about 7,000 messages posted every second worldwide on Twitter. And we're dealing with that. Our aim, our goal for our clients is really to make sense of this data because it's a goldmine of information, as you can imagine. It's real-time data. It's not mundane. It's really, really insightful information once you're able to give a sense out of it. And likewise, we have developed a lot of different machine learning algorithms to help our clients track what's really relevant to them on social media, on Twitter and Facebook, that is being posted publicly. We help them with specific algorithms also, understanding the meaning of this content. Sentiment analysis is something we do fairly accurately within different contexts, politics, sports, entertainment, you name it. And we also help them measure the impact of this content for their brands or for the brands of their competitors, because it's also a tool used for competitive analysis, as a matter of fact. The big thing today is really trying to predict the future. It's not easy. We're doing our best to do that. And also thanks to machine learning and artificial intelligence algorithm, we are able to actually foresee what may happen in the future and at least alert our clients when it's really important for them. And at the end of this presentation, I'll show you also how we can help our clients generate the buzz out of social media content. But basically, what we are trying to do here is helping them understand their world right now, in real time. You all know that 90% of data, we estimate that 90% of data ever created on Earth or by human beings was created in the last 2 years. That's actually, if we compare the data generated back in 2015 to 1985, that's actually 1 million of a billion more data generated in 30 years. And this will not stop. And obviously, this very large amount of data that we have to analyze triggers some big challenges. And these, I just name a few of these challenges, and you're dealing with that for some of you at least. The fact that data is not homogeneous. We're dealing with different sources here. The data, from a client's perspective, is not only not very well structured most of the time, but it's also not always available, and we have to find it, and that's something that we do as well with some web crawling techniques that we've put in place at VG The data can be massive, as I told you, 7,000 messages per second on Twitter worldwide, about 6 times more on Facebook publicly. It's a lot of data to analyze, and all these streams are not all of them, but most of them are actually generated in real time, which also adds difficulty there. And last but not least, the data is new. We have laddered benchmarks. It's generated on the fly by human beings, and we most of the time don't know what to expect from them. Fortunately enough, we have a lot of tools, and we are geeks, so we love to play with tools. And some of them include artificial intelligence, semantics, web semantic solutions as well, NLP techniques, natural language processing techniques that we use a lot at VG in order to actually teach the machine how to deal with that content. We're not working with dictionaries, or very little so, simply because people express themselves in a very natural manner and not automatically in a very good manner. They often use write with spelling mistakes, so dictionaries do not work in that context. So we have to find ways around that, and we have developed algorithms for that too. Profiling or targeting in marketing terms, profiling is something we also love to do. We're using two different techniques to actually be able to infer socio-demographic data out of social media content. You may know that if you have a Twitter account, you are not obliged actually to say if you're a man or a girl, a young person or an old person. This is something that we actually infer from both the image you share on your profile image. We are using image recognition algorithm based on deep learning techniques to actually be able to decide if it's a man or a woman writing a post. We also do semantic analysis on bios, trying to determine the age of the authors. We do that in conjunction with image recognition features. And geotagging is also something quite important for our clients because they love, obviously, to have an insight on what's going on the ground in their local context. And to do that, we actually use both web semantic techniques based on the information that people share publicly, and semantic and geotagging techniques. When it comes to alerting, I talk about predicting the future. This is really key for our clients. There are two ways to actually being alerted when something goes wrong. One is you set up your alert system manually, but that's very difficult because you never know where to put the threshold, basically. But we have developed techniques that do that automatically in a smart way, if you will. And how do we do that? Basically by learning from the past and projecting the future based on this past data. We do that depending on the timing, every 15 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour a day. We project the future and we alert our clients based on that specific context. So whenever there's something wrong going on in a specific context, on a topic of interest of our clients, then we alert them automatically. And I'll present you with some applications of that in a minute. Our tools are being used for different purposes. I just want to share with you two of them now. What we call the social trigger. It's actually something that is being used by people buying media space in real time. So real-time bidding is really something important for them. What happens is that they ask us to actually collect all the data that is being exchanged on a specific topic. Let's take automotive as an example. And whenever there is something going wrong for a brand like Volkswagen, as another example, Dieselgate, something that you cannot predict, and whenever they see that the sentiment for this brand is going down or negativity is going up, we are able to actually alert them in real time, considering that what's currently happening is not normal, is abnormal compared to the past. And then they will be able to immediately buy media space for their own client, which is Mercedes, in that sense, and push the right content in the right context for their own client. So that's a way they do it. We're also discussing with a major digital signage company called JCDecaux, whom you surely know, in France, based on how we can help them pushing specific campaigns on digital signage based on geotagging data. Basically, what we're doing is we analyze within a frame, within a geographic space, what people say spontaneously, and we aggregate the data, we rank the data, we categorize the data, and based on this analysis, we are able to actually inform JCDecaux about the context of the discussion, of what are the themes or topics that people discuss most at the present time in a certain location, and we actually be able to help them pushing the right campaigns in real time on their digital signage. So that's a word on this space. Another example of what we do with our API is what we've done last year, and I wanted to share this with you with Sky News in the UK. for the general election. Sky News wanted to be different from their competitors in this big media space. The news space is somewhat competitive. Sky News actually reserved or bought 300 the media space for 300 JCDecaux screens in public spaces in the UK. And I think we are at Liverpool Station here. Basically, the idea was to push real-time analysis of Twitter data based around the elections and push that content on those digital signage in order to connect both people who are connected on social media, but also the unconnected, the average citizen, if you like, to enable them to understand, what was the state of play, what was the party actually most talked about on social media, and how people were actually talking about the different political leaders. And this is an example of how it looked like. This was real-time data being pushed on JCDecaux screen in public station in 300 different public locations. That was a very, very well welcomed initiative and marketing campaign for Sky News. They felt that it was a nice way to inform the citizens, but also to differentiate themselves, obviously, from their competitors. We did that for the entire day, so pushing a different set of data, and it was very, very. It was actually a world premiere, and this actually gave an idea to Twitter. Twitter in the US last year. We worked with them for their very first digital out-of-home campaign in the Middle East. The idea was to actually be able to analyze how people were talking about Ramadan worldwide, but the objectives of Twitter at the time was twofold. One was, how can I actually demonstrate that Twitter is not only a platform being used in the US, but also in the Middle East? And secondly, how can I demonstrate the fact that Twitter is actually the platform to engage with people, to engage with the public? And this is what we've done. We've actually built the media space in Dubai, in Dubai's airport, one of the most frequently one of the most important hub in the world, and we've put we've pushed our analysis of the discussion around Ramadan, and we set up a call to action, which was basically join the conversation around Ramadan in Arabic and in English, and a different set of indicators being displayed on these digital signage. And this is how it looked like, a counter, the themes that were mostly discussed by citizens, and some very nice pictures being selected by our algorithm during the campaign. So, and this was actually located in key locations of the airport. So just to finish off, the ROI for Twitter was quite clear. In terms of engagement, level of engagement, we saw a decrease in the engagement worldwide about the discussion of Ramadan. A lot of people talking about it at the very early stage of the event, but less so at the end of the Ramadan, whilst within 10 kilometers from the Dubai airport, we saw an increase of 7% of engagement rate. So great success there. But these are just examples of how we can use machine learning algorithm, how you can use web semantic techniques to push the right content in the right context at the right time in the right place. But what I most often tell my marketeer client is, in the end, it's not the power of the algorithm that really truly matters. Is really the content that matters. And I think we're out here to basically bear this in mind. It's the content that really matters. It's the power of the campaign that really matters. It's not the power of the algorithm. We are just here as helpers and not as makers. We're just here to help good marketing campaigns to have a big impact. Thank you.
So I'd like to open up to questions. So I'm going to start with one because I'm stuck about 20 slides back on the tools that you're using when I saw NLP. And can you just talk to me about those tools and how they're actually, helping you in this predictive advertising?
NLP is really at the core of what we do. We tried 5 years ago when we established the company in Belgium. We said, well, we won't reinvent the wheel. We will take techniques that already exist. And the idea of VideoGlobe really emerged from what happened in the Arabic state with the Arab Spring. And we saw how people use social media to actually mobilize the public. And what really struck us at the time was that politicians were not able at all to actually understand and anticipate this movement, this social movement. And we thought that we should actually teach a machine to understand the meaning of these messages, aggregate data, and give a sense and help politicians to have a better reaction. That was the very beginning of VideoGlobe. NLP is used for sentiment analysis, for instance. There are two ways to actually do good machine learning. One is a supervised version, which is the one that we currently use for sentiment analysis. We manually code thousands of messages to actually train a machine on this content. And then we give some input to the machine to actually let the machine code the new tweets or the new Facebook post automatically. In terms of the tricky point for marketing is really to what extent you are able to track relevant content, to what extent you can actually make sure that the content you're analyzing is the right one. Because if you take, for example, a brand like Intel is a very common word as well, used for intelligence, especially currently. So how do you deal with this type of pollution? And how do you make sure that the content you're analyzing is really the right one for the brand? So that's also things that we take a lot of care about, and that we do care a lot about. And there are specific techniques to do that.
Yeah, I mean, does everybody know what NLP is?
Natural language processing.
So yeah, I mean, what I just find it amazing because it's linguistic, psychological based, and that to teach a machine to do that, I think for predictive advertising is amazing. So, questions?
Hi there. Yeah, you mentioned the campaign around the election here in the UK.
Yeah.
Were you guys right? Because the polls weren't.
Well said, Laura.
I'm a former pollster. I used to work for a polling agency for 18 years, so these type of questions, most of the time I was used to actually answer this question based on polling. So now I can do that with social media content. What I can tell you is, oh no, sorry, I can't go back. But during the day, we had a conservative ahead in terms of volume of data. Okay, that doesn't mean that in terms of sentiment. I think I have an idea there. Let me see. Ding. Suspense. Oh, it's the other one. Yeah, there. See, conservative was actually, that was the day before the election. In terms of volume-wise, people were talking a lot about conservative. Okay, the day before the election. That doesn't mean that what we have gathered was actually indicative of what may happen in the future, but what we've seen in different contexts. In France, for example, for the presidential election, we saw very clearly, actually, that what people were sharing spontaneously during the day of the election, in terms of their attitude to voting, was actually very indicative of what happened in the future. Why? Simply because these guys, although they're not representative of the entire electorate, they are influential in their own ways. They actually try posting Facebook posts or tweets is actually an illustration of their willingness to make an impact, okay, and to influence people. And doing so on social media, they also influence their community offline. And what we see is that there's a very big correlation between what we analyze on social media and what happened in real life. The truth is that you have to pay attention to some lobbyists and some activists that actually tweet a lot, but that's something that we can very easily isolate. and that we do actually quite well for political parties, or for the media. Actually, we work a lot for political parties. What was actually striking during the campaign was that we worked for Sky News also just after the debate, and we saw that we were able to actually indicate the winner of the debate based on social media content, and that was very, very informative.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Next up is